All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show at Levi's Stadium after the 49ers had a full day of practice down here on a Tuesday. Now, we didn't watch a lot of it. We were only in for about 5 minutes. But it's not really what we watched. It was more important who was there. Brandon Aiyuk practiced for the first time since last year. He has signed his contract, and he is in the fold. He's happy. He's got his money. He's feeling happy, and he signed and was at practice today for the first time wearing his number 11 jersey. Trent Williams has not signed, but he has agreed to a restructuring, so he's happy. And the reports this morning that Big Trent was headed to San Francisco are true. He did accrue $4 million in fines. The 49ers will not be paying those fines. He addressed it a little bit with us afterwards, said, hey, it's kind of the price of doing this. It's like, hey, he wanted to play. He's like, both sides, lose a little here. And obviously when he said both sides lose a little, what he meant was he lost $4 million in accrued fines by skipping the summer. But he was scheduled to make $20.05 million this year as part of a 6-year, $138 million deal that he signed back in 2021. The Niners created $5.4 million in cap space today by restructuring Malik Collins' deal. So Collins is restructured, and Trent's going to get paid. So good news there for Trent. CMC was at practice today. He had been out with the calf strain. CMC was at practice. By the way, Trent was at practice. I didn't see him actually running around on the field, but I saw him getting in a golf cart, being driven to the field. So the assumption is that he practiced. We had a chance to talk to Trent after practice. And, Trent's such an interesting guy. And when I say he's an interesting guy, he's such an interesting guy because he's a leader in the room. And he's really a strong veteran presence. Some guys have played a long time, but they're not leaders. Other guys are leaders, but, and this is a guy who's played a long time. He's a great player, and he's a tremendous leader. He's probably the number one leader in the room. That's just my perception of it. And I'm in the room every day, so I got a feeling for it. But he seems to me, there's other guys. Kittle is a big leader. Debo, definitely one of the leaders. Brock, Greenlaw, Brendel, some of those offensive linemen. But definitely Trent is, if you just say, give me one leader, who's the leader of the 49ers player-wise? If I had to say one, I'd say Trent. And I asked him about, I said, hey, man, you're a leader on this team, and one of your guys got shot on Saturday, Ricky Pearsall, in downtown San Francisco, and you're a leader. They're looking up to you. What do you say to these guys? What do you, what wisdom can you impart to the young guys in the room that are looking up to you about how to handle yourself as an NFL player away from the facility when you're oftentimes a target, sometimes by some really bad, unsavory characters? And he gave me just the most amazing answer. And maybe we can get Kev to splice it in here into the video. That would be phenomenal. If he can, here is Trent Williams right here answering my question. But if Kev can't splice that in, we'll somehow play that in another spot. But yeah, Trent, I asked him about it, and he gave me just a fantastic answer that he obviously wanted to come back to play football. And he obviously wanted to come back and, collect his millions and continue his Hall of Fame career. But that he really badly wanted to get back today because of what happened to Ricky on Saturday. Because he wanted to be the leader. He wanted to be able to impart wisdom, that he wanted to be able to talk to Ricky. He wanted to be able to talk to some of the young players about what Ricky went through and maybe some advice on how to handle yourself out in the public as a target, as a pro athlete, maybe walking around with some money in your pocket or a Rolex or, a nice chain or a nice whatever. And so I thought it was interesting. He gave me an incredibly long answer, well thought out, kind of revealed that, that he really wanted to impart whatever guidance he could to Ricky or to any of the young players to help them, through what was obviously a near tragic situation with Ricky Pearsall on Saturday. But he also said, hey, you know what? You gotta, be aware of your surroundings, and you gotta understand. You gotta always be aware of where you're at, and that you are a target, and and just be smart about things. And anyway, it was a great answer, and hopefully Kev can splice it in here, and if not, we'll put it out in another forum on the Krug Show. But Trent Williams, man, I mean, the answer he gave me today floored me. I thought it was one of the best answers that I've seen him give at a podium, at the podium since he's been a 49er. Had a chance to go in the locker room today after practice and talk to Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd had the sack on Aaron Rodgers that Rodgers ruptured his Achilles on. And he received death threats from Jets fans, and I asked him about it. And he's trying to downplay it. He doesn't want to play it into anything big, but he got death threats from maniacal idiot Jets fans, mad that his sack of Rodgers caused Rodgers to tear his Achilles or rupture his Achilles and be lost for the year. And even though he didn't want to talk about it, you can tell, Leonard Floyd is using, those death threats and some of the negative pub that he got there as motivation for Monday night against the Jets. So I look for Leonard Floyd to have a big Monday night against the Jets. A couple other notes. CMC had the calf strain. He returned to practice, as I mentioned. The one guy, though, that I would love to see featured Monday night. You say, what kind of game are we going to get Monday night? Niners-Jets. Jets flying across country, week 1. Rodgers did not play a single snap in the preseason. They went 3-0. They got a really good defense. But I think you're going to see a low-scoring, run-the-ball kind of a game. I think the Jets are going to try to run it right at the Niners and see if the Niners can stop Breece Hall. Breece Hall's a tremendous player. Big back. He's run sub 4.4. He's exciting. He's one of the best backs in football. So they're going to run it a lot. I think they're going to try to take some pressure off of Rodgers by maybe running it at a pretty high clip. You might see a 60-40 run-pass split, just to avoid Floyd and Bosa sitting in Rodgers' lap. And if they can have success running the ball, that's going to bode well for the Jets' chances. If you look at the Jets' defense, they're top 5 across the board except against the run. They don't stop the run. They were 25th in the NFL against the run a year ago. Now, that was a year ago. They brought in Javon Kinlaw. They brought in some big bodies up front. And, they got C.J. Mosley healthy, and they feel like they're better and more fortified to stop the run. I expect the Niners to come out with a run-heavy plan, and I think the Jets may come out with a run-heavy plan. And when two sides want to run the ball, I think it's going to be a low-scoring, knockdown, drag-out, type of a deal. So if you're a wagerer, if you're a betting football fan, I'd go with the under on Monday night. Definitely like the Niners to run the ball a lot, and I think the Jets are going to try to do the same. By the way, Trent said he had not signed the contract yet, but that was just a formality. The Niners converted $6.79 million of Malik Collins' 2024 salary into a signing bonus, adding 3 void years to the deal, freeing up $5.4 million of cap space for the team for this upcoming season. So the Niners right now are carrying an NFL high $50.5 million of cap space into week 1. And you say, well, how did they get all this cap space? They rolled over a huge rollover. They had a league-high rollover last year of $23 million that they rolled over from last year to this year. So that obviously had a huge part in it. We also talked to John Lynch today after practice, and a lot of it was about Ricky Pearsall and how Pearsall's doing, and all, obviously. And there was tons of media down here today because not only CMC's back and Aiyuk's practicing, and Trent Williams is re-signing, but then you mix in Ricky Pearsall getting shot, and the interest that a story like that almost transcends football in many, many ways. And so the media crew today down here in Santa Clara was massive. And a lot of the questions were about Ricky Pearsall, who was shot Saturday in downtown San Francisco in the chest. It sounds like through almost a miracle, You wonder about God and things like that when you see a guy got shot in the chest and it came out his back and it did not impact any of his vital organs and he's gonna survive. I mean, it's just shocking. Truly shocking. If it hits his if it hits his spine, he's paralyzed and dead. If it hits his lungs, he probably bleeds to death. If it hits him in the heart, he's probably dead. Just a very fortunate young man to escape a very serious injury there. But amazingly, the bullet went through his chest and out his back and hit no major organs. So, it was really interesting listening to Lynch. Lynch is very, very adamant that Ricky is going to be not just a good football player, but a great football player, which is great to hear. Now, it's obviously his rookie year is going to get off to a slow start. He's on the NFI list. They put him on the NFI. He will not play probably for the first 4 weeks of the season at least. And then after that, I'm sure there'll be a ramp-up period before he gets back on the field. So he's still got a long road ahead, but, he's alive. He's alive, and John Lynch talked about. He thanked all the medical personnel and the PR staff and the Niners staff that kind of rallied and kind of explained how the team had a party going on. And I know a lot of people took opportunity to be like, they should have canceled the party. Okay, all right. I get it, but obviously they had a little bit more information. Ricky didn't want the party canceled. Ricky wanted the guys to have the party. So I'm not going to be in that line of people who are ripping the Niners for having a party at Kyle's house with, Great Gatsby theme and Rick Ross and all that. You know what? The party was planned well in advance. Canceling the party wasn't going to make Ricky's situation any better. So I just think some of that was kind of low blow. People who take shots at Shanahan for that, I don't know. To me, that's a little bit of a low blow. It's a little bit of a low blow. And I'm sure if you brought it up to Shanahan, he'd be irate. The idea that he, would rather party with Rick Ross and at his house with the fellas instead of be at the bedside of one of his players. But ultimately, I don't blame Shanahan for that. I don't blame the team for that. They had no idea, that this was going to happen, the timing of it, and they also had more information about Ricky's condition. Let's just say this: it's really easy. It's really easy to sit there and go, "Oh, look at the 49ers! Look what they didn't do! Look at they had that party! Look at Shanahan! Look at he's hanging there with a Rick Ross!" And it's like, I get it. It's easy to rip, but at the same time, I think it's kind of a low blow. And they also had a lot of information that Ricky was okay. And then you hear Lynch talk about it today, and he said, hey, look, Ricky wanted the guys to be there at the party. And he wanted to talk to some of his teammates, and they FaceTimed at the party with Ricky and this and that. So I know there's a lot of people taking shots at Shanahan for that. To me, I'm not going to. I'm not saying Shanahan's always right or he's the world's greatest coach or anything like that. It's not like I would back Shanahan at every turn, but to me, if you're going to question the fact that he was at a party that was pre-existing instead of being at the hospital, I don't know. If being at the hospital would have made the situation better, then I think he should have been at the hospital, and I just don't believe it would have. There were a bunch of 49ers that changed numbers today. Jacob Cowing is now number 19 instead of 83. I don't like that switch, by the way. I talked to Cowing today about McMillan, the Arizona rookie who had 300 yards, who's his teammate. That kid's going to be amazing. Tetaroa McMillan next year in the draft. He's going top 10. Cowing's a great young kid. But I like him at wearing 83 more than 19. But he's wearing 19. He's wearing Debo's old number. Renardo Green's now wearing 0. Malik Mustafa's going to wear 6. Garendo's going to wear 31. Trent Taylor, 81. Jalen Mahoney, 38. Keyshawn Vaughn on the practice squad, 40. Jonathan Garvin on the practice squad, 50. Evan Anderson on the practice squad is going to wear 69. And Terrace Marshall, I thought there was a very good chance that Terrace Marshall would try to get 88. But no, Terrace Marshall's going to wear 84. So there you go. 84 for Terrace Marshall. Brent Jones' old number. Couple other things that I think were kind of interesting. One, the Niners signed linebacker Deshaun White to the practice squad, and released wide receiver Tay Martin. Now, I like, Big Play Tay was a friend of mine. I really thought he was a great college player. He really was. Incredible college player. And it just didn't happen. He just didn't quite have the speed to separate at this level. He's still a big guy who runs good routes and has phenomenal ball skills. But if you don't separate in the NFL, you're always making contested catches, and it's a difficult way to live. So Tay Martin, good luck to you wherever you go. Great dude. And then the Niners signed Deshaun White, who's 6 feet, 218 pounds. He came out of college undrafted, signed with Buffalo, was an undrafted college free agent with Buffalo in 2022, was on the Raiders in 2023. He's 24. He played at Oklahoma for 5 seasons. And he was a productive player in college, 259 tackles in 63 games for Deshaun White. He takes a spot on the Niner practice squad. And the other story, and I don't know, this is not my story to tell, but I know Grant did a whole video on this. Grant Cohn is reporting that according to Grant, he says that his source says that Lynch and Shanahan, the regime of the Niners' current regime, that it's a Super Bowl or bust situation, that the ownership is upset with all the spending in the offseason, and that they're upset with Kyle and John, and he's painting a picture of those guys on the hot seat and that it's Super Bowl or bust in San Francisco. Well, I don't agree. I mean, I'm not saying that his source is wrong, but I just, Kyle Shanahan, I don't think is going anywhere. He just signed an extension. John Lynch is the face of the franchise in a lot of ways. Are they held to high standards here by Jed York and Parag Marathe and the Niner, maybe even Denise and John? Yeah, they're held to high standards, but they've met those high standards. And we can sit there and go crazy about, they haven't won a Super Bowl, or we can acknowledge that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, with 2 Super Bowl appearances and at least 2 other NFC title game appearances in the last 4 or 5 years, have they won the Super Bowl? No. Have they gotten the 6th Lombardi trophy in the trophy case in Santa Clara? No. But outside of the Chiefs, they've probably been the best team in pro football. And they still have a loaded roster with a ton of guys, and they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. So, do I think that there are people in this building that's patience with the regime is running thin because it's now year 8 and it hasn't produced a Super Bowl victory in that elusive 6th Lombardi? Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some people that are frustrated by it. But at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan is probably, if there was a head coach draft and every head coach was a free agent in the league, he'd probably go 2nd, maybe 3rd. I mean, he might go 1st. I mean, you got Andy Reid, and then it's pretty much there's other guys that have won Super Bowls, John Harbaugh. There's up and comers, guys like Jim Harbaugh, who are have won everywhere they've been. But I mean, Kyle Shanahan is probably one of the 4 or 5 best coaches in pro football, and he would be snapped up in a minute. So I don't believe for a second that he's on the hot seat in this kind of like endless. He's on the hot seat. Unless Jed is the world's greatest actor, I don't think Kyle's on the hot seat anytime soon. I just don't. Jed absolutely loves Kyle and John. I think it's taken him a long time to get a combo management team that he really trusts and believes in. He believes in this duo. And do they want to win the Super Bowl badly? Are they desperate to win it? Sure. But are you telling me that the Niners ownership group is going to fire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at the end of the year if they don't win the Super Bowl? That's crazy talk. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles as well down along the Monterey Peninsula for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys.